Kimisha here from Oasis Integrated Communication. Happy anniversary CBX. Continue to champion incredible stories, create meaningful change, and captivate audiences globally.
Asia. People there are hugely interested in what's happening in Europe and whether Europe has really regained the lead in this area due to the technological upheavals taking place.
The Time by Carrie Chris.
Fesco started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational. The director shareholders always believe that the dealers within our network should be owners of the company. They believe that staff should be owners of the company. And specifically also believe that the public should become shareholders. That cannot be facilitated by a bank loan. Our experience so far has translated into additional customers. Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates. So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market. Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
The Time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News Headlines is brought to you by QMX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Mayberry speaks out. IMF pressures Belize and Trump shakes up markets. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Tuesday, September 16, 2025. I am Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, Mayberry clarifies its role in Kio World's American Express license deal, refuting claims of a takeover. On the regional front, IMF urges Belize to deepen reforms as economic growth slows, even as debt falls sharply. And over on the global stage, Donald Trump proposes scrapping quarterly earnings reports for U.S. companies, a move that could shake Wall Street. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Fesco started from 5 shareholders who believe that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational. The director shareholders always believe that the dealers within our network should be owners of the company. They believe that staff should be owners of the company. And specifically also believe that the public should become shareholders. That cannot be facilitated by a bank loan. Our experience so far has translated into additional customers. Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates. So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market. Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with an update on Jamaica's inflation trend. The island's headline inflation remained subdued in August 2025, with the Consumer Price Index (CPI) rising 0.3% to 142.4 points. That's according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin. The increase was driven mainly by higher prices for agricultural produce and education-related expenses. But these pressures were tempered by falling electricity and fuel costs. The Food and Non-Alcoholic Beverages Division climbed 0.8% during the month, reflecting higher prices for watermelon, Irish and sweet potatoes, cabbage, scallion, and other fresh produce. Price hikes were also recorded for meat, fish, and ready-made meals, while beverages posted smaller increases. Education costs surged ahead of the new school term, pushing the division up 9.8% year-on-year, largely due to the higher preparatory school fees and increased charges for CSEC examinations. Recreation, sport, and culture also rose 0.9% in August as the textbook and stationery costs jumped. On the downside, the housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels index fell 0.4% due to lower electricity rates, while the transport division slipped 0.2% as petrol prices declined. For the 12 months to August 2025, inflation measured 1.2%, well below the Bank of Jamaica's medium-term target, signaling relative price stability. Restaurant and accommodation services posted the steepest year-on-year increases, up 5.2%, while communication costs plunged 5.8% on cheaper mobile data plans. And from the broader economy, we turn to the financial sector. Mayberry Investments has moved to clarify its position in fintech firm Kio World, following reports linking the company to an alleged takeover of American Express's international credit card business. Responding to a question at the company's annual general meeting earlier this month, Mayberry CEO Gary Peart told shareholders that Kio had an opportunity to take over the U.S. card giant's business outside North America.
So Kio got an opportunity to take over the credit card business of American Express. Because American Express is retreating out of the credit card business for all their customers outside of North America. And basically, Kio has partnered with, for a better word, a hedge fund, and they have identified a shell company that was previously being traded on a NASDAQ Europe exchange. That's called Maha Capital. And what has happened is that they have concluded an arrangement where Kio will get a certain amount of shares from this new entity, where the funding will be used to basically take over that credit card business of American Express.
But in a statement released on Monday, Mayberry refuted media reports of an acquisition. The firm stressed that Kio World has not purchased American Express's card operations. Instead, American Express has granted Kio a license to issue Amex-branded credit cards in markets outside North America. Mayberry further emphasized that it has no direct relationship with American Express, its strategies, or its operations. Its involvement is strictly through a special purpose vehicle, SPV, which holds about 10% of Kio World. Kio World, which focuses on business-to-business B2B payments across Latin America, Central America, and the Caribbean, is expected to leverage the Amex license to expand in those regions. Mayberry noted that while the licensing deal represents growth potential for Kio World, it is important for stakeholders to understand the distinction between a license agreement and a business acquisition. In other news, Jamaica is preparing to host its largest agricultural investment event of the year. The Jamaica Agribusiness Investment Forum, JAFE 25, from September 17 to 19 at the Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James. The three-day forum, staged by the Agro Investment Corporation in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, is expected to attract global investors, policymakers, and agribusiness leaders under the theme Sustainable Agribusiness, Global Reach, Local Impact. Organizers say the forum is designed to unlock the full economic potential of Jamaica's agriculture by driving investments in high-value crops, livestock, aquaculture, agro-processing, and agri-technology. Other areas to be highlighted include smart farming, greenhouse production, cold chain logistics, and stronger linkages between agriculture and the tourism sector. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green, and Industry and Commerce Minister Aubin Hill are among the high-profile speakers, alongside leaders from the Jamaica Stock Exchange, Planning Institute of Jamaica, Exim Bank, and the World Bank. JAFE 25 is expected to draw participants from the United States, Canada, Europe, China, Africa, and the wider Caribbean, reinforcing Jamaica's push to position itself as a regional hub for agribusiness, investment, and trade. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Tuesday's currency trading session, the US dollar is selling for $160.87, the Canadian for $118.23, the pound sterling for $218.77, while the euro's going rate is $190.56. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities markets. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 107 stocks, of which 56 advanced, 38 declined, and 13 traded firm. The winners are VM Investments, MPC Caribbean, Clean Energy USD, Palace Amusement Company Limited, and 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, while leading the losers are R.A. Williams Distributors, KLE Group, 138 Student Living Jamaica, and Jamaican Teas. The main index declined by 1,153.08 points, or 0.36%, to close at 317,348.67 points. The junior market index also declined by 21.08 points, or 0.63%, to close at 3,332.33 points.
And it's time for our Market Education feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education feature, we turn the spotlight on callable capital. Callable capital refers to the portion of capital pledged by shareholders of multilateral development banks, MDBs, that is not paid upfront. Instead, it acts as a safeguard, allowing the bank to call on its member governments for funds only in exceptional circumstances, such as when the bank cannot meet its financial obligations. This mechanism protects creditors while preserving the bank's financial stability. Importantly, callable capital has never been tested. No MDB has ever had to request additional funds from its shareholders. To maintain this record, the G20 in 2022 recommended measures to ensure MDBs remain resilient without relying on callable capital. These include optimizing balance sheets, updating risk models, and improving transparency and coordination.
The Market Education feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses. And Pulse Investments.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Belize's remarkable post-pandemic recovery is showing signs of fatigue, with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) projecting growth to slow to 1.5% in 2025, down from 8.1% last year, even as public finances improve. According to the IMF Executive Board's September 10 review, the slowdown stems from weaker tourism and agriculture performance, coupled with capacity constraints. Medium-term growth is expected to converge at around 2%, absent new investments in hotel and flight capacity. Still, Belize has made major fiscal strides. Public debt has been cut to 61.1% of GDP in 2024, down from a pandemic peak of 103.3% in 2020, supported by debt swaps and negotiated write-downs. Inflation has also moderated sharply, easing to 1% in May 2025 from 4% a year earlier. The IMF directors welcomed these gains, but warned that debt reduction will now slow unless supported by additional fiscal consolidation and structural reforms. They urged Belize to raise revenues, reform its public sector pension plan, and reprioritize expenditure to create space for targeted social spending, crime prevention, and climate-resilient infrastructure. Still with news from Belize, the government has moved to strengthen the country's labor market with twin financing agreements valued at US $15 million, backed by the Taiwan International Corporation and Development Fund (ICDF) and the Inter-American Development Bank (IDB). This initiative will be supported by a US $7 million direct investment loan from the IDB's Ordinary Capital Resources, a US $1 million non-reimbursable grant from the bank, and US $7 million in joint financing from Taiwan's ICDF. Speaking during a sitting of Parliament recently, Prime Minister John Briceño described the initiative as transformative.
This is the Inter-American Development Bank program to improve the labor force participation and employability of Belize, US $7 million loan motion 2025. Mr. Speaker, I move whereas Belize, as a member of the IDB, the bank, is eligible for development assistance in the form of loans, grants and technical assistance from the bank on such terms and conditions as may be agreed between Belize and the bank from time to time. And whereas the government of Belize has approached the bank for financial assistance to execute a program to improve the labor force participation and employability in Belize.
Prime Minister of Belize, John Briceño. And Grenada is intensifying its drive toward a greener economy, rolling out aggressive tax concessions to accelerate electric vehicle (EV) adoption and renewable energy usage. Speaking during the opening session of Parliament recently, Minister of Climate Resilience and Renewable Energy, Karen James, has reaffirmed the government's target of achieving 100% renewable energy penetration on the national grid. She also noted that the transport sector, a major source of greenhouse gas emissions, is now a central focus of the policy shift.
Well, we have a quite ambitious target set out in our National Adaptation Plan, which is to diversify Grenada's renewable energy mix by 100%, to have 100% penetrated renewable energy on our grid. And we have realized that in order for us to do so, we cannot just look at the utility side of it, but the transportation side is a big sector that we have not taken into consideration many years ago. And so one of the low-hanging fruits for us at the ministry to really, show that we can do this and we can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions was to elevate the presence of electric vehicles and hybrids. We have continued, and my cabinet colleagues have allowed me to continue the 100% concession on fully electric vehicles and the 75% concession on hybrids.
Minister of Climate Resilience and Renewable Energy, Karen James. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 19 securities, of which 4 advanced, 4 declined, and 11 traded firm. Today's winners are A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, the West Indian Tobacco Company, Republic Financial Holdings, and Massey Holdings. While leading the losers are National Enterprises, Agostini Limited, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and CIBC Caribbean Bank. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index advanced by 5.42 points to close at 1,423.77. The Composite Index advanced by 2.17 points to close at 990.75. The cross-listed index declined by 0.19 points to close at 73.86. The SME index remained at 100.65. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Let's all get fit. This summer set drip. Hip dips and split. For in the mind, let's get healthy with it. Sometimes the body's so hard, but the body wants it. And then your head is so home, and it's so like this. So we gotta go 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. One more now. 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, United States President Donald Trump on Monday suggested that U.S. companies should move away from long-standing practice of quarterly earnings reporting, proposing a shift to semi-annual disclosures instead. A move that could mark a major shake-up in how public companies communicate with investors. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, confirmed that it is actively reviewing the proposal. While no formal rule changes have been announced, the idea has reignited a debate over the balance between corporate flexibility and investor transparency. Reducing the burden of frequent reporting could allow companies to focus more on long-term growth rather than short-term market pressures, Trump said during a business roundtable in Washington. He added that moving to a twice-yearly schedule would help reduce regulatory red tape and improve competitiveness. The proposal has drawn mixed reactions from business leaders, investors, and regulators. Supporters argue that quarterly reporting encourages short-term thinking and can pressure executives into making decisions aimed at meeting short-term earnings targets rather than investing in innovation, sustainability, or workforce development. Some CEOs and corporate boards have previously advocated for such a change, echoing concerns about earnings obsession on Wall Street. Canada's annual inflation rate rose slightly to 1.9% in August, up from 1.7% in July, but remained just below economists' expectations of 2% and under the Bank of Canada's 2% midpoint target for the fifth consecutive month. The modest uptick was largely driven by a smaller year-on-year drop in gasoline prices, which declined 12.7% in August compared to 16.1% in July. Excluding gasoline, the CPI rose 2.4%, slightly easing from 2.5% seen over the previous 3 months. Food inflation edged higher to 3.4%, up from 3.3% in July, led by sharp increases in meat prices, which rose 7.2% year-on-year, accelerating from 4.7% the previous month. Shelter costs, which make up nearly 30% of the CPI basket, also contributed to the overall inflation picture, but at a slower pace. Shelter inflation eased to 2.6% in August from 3% in July, reflecting a moderation in both mortgage interest and rent prices. On a monthly basis, the CPI declined by 0.1%, following a 0.3% gain in July, and contrary to expectations of a flat growth. The trimmed mean core CPI, a key measure watched by the Bank of Canada for signs of underlying inflation pressures, eased slightly to 3%, in line with forecasts and down from 3.1% in July. Brazil's labor market continued to strengthen in the 3 months ending July 2025, with the unemployment rate falling to 5.6%, down from 5.8% in the previous period and slightly better than the market expectations of 5.7%. This marks the lowest jobless rate since the national survey began in 2012. The number of unemployed Brazilians fell to 16.1 million, the lowest since late 2013, while the number of employed workers reached a record of 102.4 million. The employment to population ratio remained at historic high of 58.8%, reflecting sustained labor market strength. Job gains were broad-based across key sectors. Employment rose by 522,000 in public administration, education, health and social services, and up by 260,000 in information and professional services, while it was up 206,000 in agriculture. WTI crude futures rose over 1% to above $64 per barrel on Tuesday, extending their recent rally amid growing supply concerns linked to escalating attacks on Russian energy infrastructure. The latest jump comes after Ukraine launched another overnight strike on a Russian refinery, part of a wider campaign that has also targeted key facilities such as the Primorsk export terminal. According to estimates from Goldman Sachs, these attacks have disrupted approximately 300,000 barrels per day of Russian refining capacity across August and early September. Compounding the supply issues, Reuters reported that Russian pipeline operators are now limiting storage space for producers, creating additional bottlenecks in the system. Geopolitical pressure on Russia is also mounting from the West. The European Union is reportedly weighing fresh sanctions, including measures against firms in India and China accused of helping Moscow bypass existing oil trade restrictions. On the macroeconomic front, all eyes are on U.S. Federal Reserve's upcoming policy meeting, where markets are widely anticipating a 25 basis points rate cut. And those were your international business stories. After the break, do rejoin us for your recap.
Has so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Mayberry clarifies stake in Kia World's American Express license deal. Regionally, IMF urges Belize to deepen reforms as growth slows, debt falls sharply. And internationally, Trump proposes ending quarterly earnings reports for U.S. companies. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Hi, this is Brittany from Daniel's Coffee Barrel. Just wanted to wish CBX a very happy anniversary from Daniel and the team.
Hello everyone, I'm Kiran Maharaj of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and I just want to wish CBX a very happy anniversary. Thank you CBX for keeping us informed, and may you continue to grow globally, making strides everywhere. Best wishes.
On behalf of the Trans-Tobago Stock Exchange and the Trans-Tobago Central Depository, I'd like to wish CBX a happy anniversary. 3 years already. Thank you for what you're doing for us as a region. Thank you for keeping us connected. Here's wishing you many more years of success. Happy anniversary, CBX.